If you're looking to buy a factory-built, off-road ready machine, it's pretty hard to beat the combination of the Ford Bronco. When the company decided to bring the nameplate back to the States after a 25-year hiatus, it was pretty obvious that they had Jeep in their crosshairs with the Wrangler as a direct competitor. Now, of course, one of the key successes to the Wrangler are multiple trim offerings or multiple models. So a couple years ago, Ford decided to expand the Bronco family with the introduction of this. This is the 2024 Bronco Everglades. It slots between the Wild Track and the Badlands trim. And as you can see, it's going to be one of the most off-road overland capable models because of the standard Sasquatch package, the factory snorkel, and the factory worn winch at the front of this vehicle that's going to immensely increase the capability. So as you can see, this week Ford has loaned us this Everglades in this beautiful shade of eruption green metallic. And the big question I went and answered, has Ford managed to create a Bronco for the ultimate adventure-seeking enthusiast? Stay tuned to find out. So before we start talking about the exterior styling differences between this Everglades and some other versions of the Bronco, I thought I'd pop the hood and remind you guys what's powering this thing. Now here in America, Ford does offer the Bronco in several different engine configurations. However, if you guys want the Everglades, it only comes with one engine option, the standard 2.3 liter EcoBoost Turbo 4. Now, as you can see underneath the hood, there is basically a mess of wiring underneath here. I actually think this is one of the engines that could use an actual Powertrain cover, engine cover, a plastic cover, but this Powertrain is definitely a solid one. It's the company's 2.3 liter gasoline direct injection turbocharged EcoBoost 4-cylinder that makes 300 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque. That's only going to make that power if you guys feed it premium fuel. You put regular in it, it'll drop the power figures to 275 horsepower and 315 pound-feet of torque. Keep in mind, there's also a mid-level twin-turbo V6, 2.7 liters, that delivers up to 335 horsepower, or 330 horsepower, I'm sorry. That engine is not available on the Everglades trim like it is on some other options for or other trims for an extra $3,000. It all goes out through a 10-speed automatic transmission. That is the only transmission on this trim level. Ford does offer a 7-speed manual on some other trims, even with the Sasquatch package. So it's a shame that Ford doesn't offer the manual. If you guys are also looking for the most powerful Bronco, you have to pony up for the Raptor. That has a 3-liter twin-turbo V6. I'm hoping to get a hold of one of those vehicles at some point, either late this year or early next year. The downside with all this upgraded off-road tech on this trim, fuel economy does drop to 18 miles per gallon in the city, 17 on the highway, about 18 combined. This has just under a 21-gallon fuel tank. You're looking at about 350-ish miles of range. That's again on premium fuel if you want to get the maximum 300 horsepower. Now, Ford does not quote a 0 to 60 time for this model. The last Bronco we tested with the V6 twin turbo did it in about 6.8 seconds. So I expect this model to obviously be slower. It'll tow a maximum of 3,500 pounds. It has a top speed of around 99 miles an hour. And as this model sits, it is pretty heavy. And that's because of the worn winch and some of the other optional upgrade extras. That does increase the curb weight to just under 5,300 pounds, a solid 300 to 400 pounds heavier versus like a comparable Badlands equipped model with the Sasquatch package. But closing the hood, let's go ahead and talk about the exterior styling. Now, when Ford first introduced the all-new Bronco in 2021, keep in mind there are two separate models. There's the Bronco Sport, which is basically a replacement for the Ford Escape. Hasn't been actually confirmed, but it basically is. It's a car-based crossover. This is the big Bronco, which means we have a body-on-frame design. It's got the heritage-inspired styling, and I have to say, this vehicle still looks good today. It turns a lot of heads out on the road, and it's been a massive sales success for Ford. You can see on the Everglades trim, it starts life as a black diamond, which is technically one trim from the base, but it gets some nice upgrades. So this color is called Eruption Green Metallic. It is absolutely stunningly gorgeous. It's an extra $300, worth every penny. The Everglades gets its own unique grille, of course, with the blacked out Bronco script in the grille. You can see the headlights. These are the upgraded full LED headlights with the LED daytime running light, LED turn signals. You do have a reflector style LED low and high beam, which doesn't look great, but it looks good with the daytime running light and turn signal. You can see it also comes standard with the modular steel bumper. That's typically an extra $1,000. And then over here, you can see this massive worn winch. Now, this is available from Ford Performance, but it's standard on this trim level of the Bronco. You can see the worn winch has its own little brush guard. It can tow up to 10,000 pounds, and that line is around 100 feet long. So again, that's gonna help you if you guys are off-roading and you happen to get stuck, you need to pull yourself out. That is a wonderful package. It's standard on this trim. It's typically an extra $3,500, but it's included here. You can see you have the full steel bash plate, and because this vehicle does have the Sasquatch package. You have these 35-inch tall tires with nearly a foot of ground clearance, so nearly 12 inches of ground clearance. It's around 0.3 inches lifted versus a standard Sasquatch package. I also want to point out the snorkel right here. This is one of the only trims to come with the factory snorkel here. You can actually move this kind of grate here to be on the back side here. If you guys are driving in dusty conditions, this can help you put it back here so it doesn't suck up dusty air. But this essentially helps the vehicle to forward up to 36.4 inches of water. So that's a solid 3 inches more versus other trims of the Bronco with the Sasquatch package. Technically still it's around a half an inch lower than the Raptor Bronco, but that again has a little over 13 inches of ground clearance. So moving around the side profile, you can see the Everglades only comes as the 4-door model, which means we have a 116.1 inch wheelbase with an overall length just shy of 199 inches. This is the longest Bronco in the lineup, and that's because of the winch. The winch essentially adds another 10 inches to the overall length, because that's going to be standard. It's from the factory. You can see these are the 17-inch kind of glossy gray wheels, which almost have a steely look design, but it's actually an alloy wheel. It's got a 6-lug design. You can see it's a 35-inch 315 by 70 R17 Goodyear mud terrain or territory mud terrain tire. 12.2-inch brakes at the front, identical size brakes at the rear. You do have an independent front suspension. You can see the Everglades is also the only one that gives you the kind of squared off design for the wheel arch molding. That's essentially included on the Sasquatch package as well, but it makes the vehicle a solid like 3 inches wider than other trims of the Bronco at just under 80 inches wide. I also love the Everglades graphics package here. It goes great with this eruption green color. You can see it also says Sasquatch here with some topography, because remember, this is named after the Florida Everglades National Park. Mirrors here are not body colored. They're also not power folding, but you do have blind spot monitoring. No 360 camera or front camera on this vehicle, and that's because the winch obviously is going to impede on any kind of front camera. The Everglades also comes standard with the roof rail crossbars. This is the molded in color removable hardtop, which is also standard. My test car is missing the hardtop liner that's supposed to help reduce the noise. Moving around from this angle here, you can see, love the boxy square upright proportions. It just looks mean. It just looks tough. It looks like it's ready to tackle basically anything you want to throw at it. And then looking at the rear of the Bronco, you can see the taillight design, very heritage inspired. Nothing else really has changed. I'll be curious to see what Ford does for a refresh at some point. You can see full LED taillights with LED turn signals, big full-size matching spare tire at the back, with the camera mounted here to help you make sure you don't back into something when you're trying to reverse this vehicle. Underneath the rear bumper, you also have the steel rear bumpers. You can see no visible exhaust. It's kind of tucked away underneath there. You can see a lot of the suspension componentry. It's got a live axle at the back, remember that. And then looking at the cargo area, it's got a swing out gate, just like on the Wrangler. And you can see once you open this up, you can also flip this up as well here. The Bronco's cargo area is pretty competitive. You have around 35 cubic feet of space with the second row up. There is a little bit of storage to the side over here, along with a 12-volt outlet. You can also have some LED map lighting or LED lighting as well. And if you lift underneath here, you can see there's a little bit of underfloor storage, although it's not really much. You can again open this up a little bit more if you want, but I won't be able to do that right now. If you fold down the second row seats, it will expand the cargo to around 78 cubic feet of space, which is actually among the bigger end. That's going to be more, I believe, than the last Wrangler that I tested with 4 full-size doors. So kind of keep that in mind. The bigger Bronco is definitely the one to get, or the 4-door Bronco is the one to get if you guys need maximum cargo. And I love how Ford makes it standard equipment if you guys go for the Everglades. There is no 2-door variant of the Everglades trim. So moving on to the interior of this 2024 Ford Bronco Everglades. Before we get inside, however, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see this is Ford's intelligent access push button start key, which is included when you guys go for the mid trim level upgrade package, which is standard on this trim. You can see it has your usual buttons here for unlock, lock, remote start, and panic function. No pop open of the rear hatch. You can see it also says Bronco at the back. This is an older fob that's also rather bulky and like annoying to actually carry in your pocket. Ford also does offer their phone as a key function, although I don't think they offer it here on the Bronco. I'll have to double check that, but you can see the door handles are unpainted. They do have an area here where I can essentially tap my finger there. That'll lock the door for you. The mirrors, again, as you can see, don't electrically fold. Touch the back of the door handle. That's what's going to unlock the door for you. Now, if you guys go for this trim level, you essentially only get one color combination on the inside. This is the Onyx vinyl, marine vinyl grade interior. So this is a fake leather. It's a vinyl material designed to be washable, designed to essentially be as durable as possible. I do like the two-tone color, which you can see is kind of black with some nice darker graphite gray, the running horse logo there, or the kicking horse logo. And you can see these seats are just 3-level heated. Ford does not offer ventilated seats on the Bronco, and you also have manual adjustments. That's because you can't get it with the high-level package, which would include the power front seats, which is kind of disappointing, but it helps to keep the price down. The door panel, as you can see, this upper portion is all hard touch plastic, designed to be as durable as possible. This is slightly padded where you'd rest your elbows. This is kind of a little grab handle here with some additional storage, exposed rivets and screw heads, which looks nice, but this door actually is designed to come off, so that's the reason why the door looks a little bit more bargain basement. Getting inside the vehicle, these are obviously rock rails and not step rails. So if you want to get in, you basically hold this little grab handle here and then hoist yourself up to pull you into the interior. And then once I get inside here and shut the door has a kind of clunky thunk to it when you shut it, but it's kind of, you know, what you expect when you have doors that are removable. Starting the vehicle up, you can see start stop button is where you'd expect it to be. And then the engine fires right up with a traditional starter noise. This is not a hybrid or a mild hybrid. Ford, as you guys know, does not offer that feature on any Bronco at this current moment. We're expecting to see a hybrid show up at some point. You can see the steering wheel is leather wrapped. It's a 3-spoke design wheel with this nice looking design. You can see the airbag cover has the kicking horse here, which is great. The horn, it actually sounds really kind of in your face, so it tells people to get out of the way if you need to honk at somebody. No paddles on the wheel. You can see the steering wheel itself does offer a manual tilt telescoping adjustment, so not much in terms of adjustability for the tilt part, but the telescope part does offer a good amount of adjustments. You can see the steering wheel is missing some buttons. You do have lane keep assist, automatic emergency braking, but no adaptive cruise. That's not available on this trim. You have your controls here to control that gauge display. You can see it's kind of a half digital, half analog display. Ford does offer a fully digital instrument cluster on the Bronco Raptor, but not on this trim. You can see the upper portion of this is all hard touch plastic. You have your front and rear lockers along with your turn assist, your stability control off button over here. And then all of the Everglades trims will come with the bigger 12-inch infotainment system, which includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's Sync 4, so it's not the newer system that we've seen from the Ford digital experience. I will say that Sync 4 is starting to show its age. It is extremely laggy, although it's laggy right now, extra laggy because I'm filming and it's connected to the CarPlay, so kind of keep that in mind. But if I go back to the actual system here, you can see it's still not the best. It's still a little bit slow and unresponsive. There is built-in embedded GPS, which as you can see, works pretty good. Not much in terms of beautiful graphics. You can see there's some of the features and settings you can adjust. There is some ambient lighting in here, but it's not multicolor ambient lighting. And you can also adjust what you want this little screen over here to be, which is kind of nice, showing your trip or your fuel economy information. So that's, again, all pretty good. You have dual zone climate control. That's included when you guys go for the mid-trim upgrade charge, which this model again has as standard. If I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see no 360 camera, just a backup camera with trajectory and parking sensors, which is nice. The camera is mounted in the spare tires, so you can see what's behind you. Graphics is also pretty good, but again, if you want the 360 camera, that's included on the high trim, but it wouldn't be available on this trim anyways because of the front winch at the front of the vehicle. This area here is all hard touch plastic, which is pretty much what you'd expect. There's a nice grab handle here, storage compartment here, no wireless phone charging pad, but you do have 2 USB charging ports, an A and a C. Nice meaty shifter for the 10-speed auto, and your manual mode is over here. In addition to just putting it right there, you can see this is your drive mode selector. Goats goes over any terrain, which is kind of silly to say, but you can see there's several modes, from an eco, a sport, a slippery mode, a mud and ruts, a sand, a rock crawl mode, and then if you go all the way back, it goes back into the normal setting. Most of you will have it in normal, but it looks like there's 7 different drive modes. There's also a 4-wheel drive system here where you can go into a 2 high, 4 auto, 4 high, or 4 low, along with a downhill assist control. Love the fact that Ford offers a full-time all-wheel drive system with the front and rear lockers, which is great. Your window controls are here in the center. As you can see, the windows are 1 touch up down for the front and for the rear, so it's 1 touch up down for all 4. That's fantastic. That's something that Jeep does not give you in the Wrangler. The Wrangler is only 1 touch down, but not 1 touch up. Also has pretty high quality feeling controls here, which I like. You have your mirror controls over here, slightly padded armrest here, and you can see this is actually pretty big. All my camera equipment actually fits in here when I'm not using it, which is kind of nice. And then the seats, like I said earlier, marine vinyl, so they're basically washable, they're stain resistant, and they're going to also be extremely durable. They are comfortably padded as well, but it would be nice if Ford would offer cooled seats. No power seats on this side as well, obviously. Open up the glove compartment, you can see it's damped, but not lined with felt. It's a pretty decent size And then this car also comes with just the standard Ford audio system. The Bang & Olufsen stereo is not available on this trim. You have an auto-dimming rearview mirror with not a frameless design. You do have some LED map lighting along with these auxiliary switches if you guys want to add some things. These panels essentially come off with these little ratchets. They just lift right off. They're 2 individual panels. The rear one, however, is going to take 2 people to do it. You're going to have to store it in your garage. But overall, the front seat area isn't really any different than the standard Bronco. Not luxurious, obviously, but very durable, reasonably high tech. Although it's time for Ford, I think, to add their digital experience software. It'll just be better than the Sync 4 in general, but it's still comfortable, great visibility, nice commanding view of the road, and it's still a great place to spend time versus some of its rivals. Well, let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area. I can show you guys what that's like really quick. Now, this model only comes as the 4-door version. Ignore that honk, it's because I have the key fob in me. This door, it does open a relatively large amount. You can see material quality back here is the same. It is slightly padded over here, which is nice with some additional storage. Hard touch plastic over here. You can see the seats, they do fold down, where you can essentially fold them down, although you kind of have to first, that's annoying, push that down to fold the headrest down. And once you fold this down, you can see it doesn't create a completely flat floor. It's a little bit elevated, but it's certainly going to expand the cargo capacity out nicely. You can see the seats themselves, they actually do offer a slight recline as well. So that's also a nice versatility touch. And then once you get back here, you can see nice grab handle to help shorter folks like myself get in. And then Ford says once you're back here, this is pretty much where I have the seat to drive. You have around 36.3 inches of legroom in the 4-door version. The 2-door drops it by about an inch of legroom. There's a big hump here for the middle passenger. You do have your window controls here, along with your USB 2 power outlets and an actual power outlet here, which is great, but no rear seat air vents, which is disappointing. You can see there's a little bit of storage compartments here. There's these little clips where you can clip on some things. You know, if you guys have those big hooks that you need to put into the rear seat back area, you can see visibility back here is pretty decent. There's also a nice little armrest that folds down, although the armrest itself isn't very big. When this is down, I guess two people might struggle to find some space to kind of rest their elbows. If I look at the headroom space, you can see pretty good headroom actually. I have a solid like 2 to 3 inches maybe of additional head clearance, and remember you can actually remove this as well and take off the doors if you want. So overall, if you want to use this as a family vehicle, the Bronco 4-door is pretty much on par, maybe even a little bit more spacious than the Jeep Wrangler 4-door. So it's been nearly a year since I've had a chance to show you guys a full review on the Ford Bronco. This nameplate was brought back to the US in 2021, and I've had a chance to drive a few variants of it, but surprisingly, I actually haven't had a chance to show you guys a full test on the 2.3 liter EcoBoost with the 10-speed automatic transmission. The one that I most recently had was the Heritage Limited Edition, which comes standard with the twin turbo 2.7 liter V6. The 2.3, the last one that I tested, came with the 7-speed manual, which is a wonderful combination. But this model that we're driving is certainly very unique in the sense that it's literally the most overland-ready rig that you can buy from Ford, minus a Bronco Raptor, which I'm hoping to get a hold of a Raptor at some point. This 4-door version here with the Sasquatch package as standard, the 35-inch tall mud terrain tires, certainly makes it a little bit more of a challenge if you're planning to daily drive it. However, it is still far more comfortable versus a Jeep Wrangler because of the independent front suspension, the rack and pinion style steering. The last Bronco that I tested with the V6 got from 0 to 60 in 6.8 seconds. Let's go ahead and see what we can get with this model here, which is down about 30 horsepower, nearly 100 foot-pounds of torque compared to the V6. Basically, you put it into sport mode, and then you brake torque it. Sounds better than the Wrangler's 4-cylinder, that's for sure. 0 to 60 in 7.34 seconds there, which is about pretty much what I expected it to be. It actually kind of matches the time that I got with the 2.3 EcoBoost and the 7-speed manual when in a baser, I think it was a Black Diamond trim, which technically this version starts off as the Black Diamond. 7.3 is certainly respectable, but we now know that the V6 version in the first edition, or in the Heritage Edition that I tested last year, will do it in around a half a second faster. Is it worth it to go for the V6 to get a half a second faster acceleration time? Not really. However, I will say that the 4-cylinder's economy is pretty much the same as the V6, so you're not really saving much in terms of gas. This is, of course, on premium fuel. If you want it to have the maximum 300 horsepower, it'll drop to 275 without it. This time we'll try just flooring it without brake torquing it. Feels a little soft off the line. Takes a second for the turbo to build boost. 9.2 there. That's with it going more slightly uphill and without brake torquing it. So that's a big difference. 2 seconds slower, 0 to 60. I'll try it again up ahead and see if we can get a more consistent 7.3 time, because that's alarmingly a lot slower. But anyways, driving the Bronco Everglades out on the road is pretty similar to any other Bronco with the Sasquatch package. You're gonna hear a ton of noise coming in through the tires, those all-terrains, and of course the wind noise coming in from that roof rail crossbars that's on the roof, and then the fact that this is a removable top. This is the molded in color hardtop, although it doesn't have the hardtop headliner to kind of reduce the interior noise levels. Handling wise, this is still a body on frame vehicle. The rack and pinion steering is a little bit better for precision, but you feel the body lean heavily. This is, you know, a vehicle that is designed to go off-roading, and this is where the Bronco is going to shine off-road. Out on the road, it's definitely still better versus a Wrangler, but it's also, you know, not going to be the most comfortable vehicle ever. I will say that these seats are surprisingly comfortable. These are the marine grade vinyl onyx seats, and they feel really comfortable and plush. The padding feels nice. They don't really hold you in place nicely in aggressive driving, obviously, but on longer trips, you're gonna find the comfort to be quite good. The headrest also feels nice and plush, which is good. Visibility out of this thing, out of the front, the side, the rear, is actually really good as well. Although Ford doesn't offer the 360 camera on this trim, and that's because of the worn winch that's on the front. It kind of eats into the space there, so you can't put a front camera, which is a little disappointing. I'm hoping Ford will be able to fix that at some point and give us the front camera system, because I think it is useful on a vehicle like this to kind of have that. Now, I have it in its 4x4 auto setting, and that's where it will constantly switch between rear or four-wheel drive. It'll turn on that front axle when it seems necessary, when there's loss of grip. And, you know, the engine itself makes some kind of growly 4-cylinder noises. The 10-speed auto is smooth and refined, and it shifts quickly. It's a good transmission. For those of you who don't want to shift manually, it's certainly an option for you, which I think is probably the transmission that most people are going to end up getting anyways. Let's try another run here really quick. This time we won't brake torque it again. Again, feels pretty soft initially. Gotta wait for that turbo to spool up, man. That's really slow to spool up. 8.53 seconds there. So that's without brake torquing it. When you brake torque it, you guys saw it shaves about a second off the 0 to 60 time, and that's because you're essentially building boost in the turbo, which is gonna be necessary. This has more boost pressure than the V6. I think it tops out at around 20 PSI, so you're gonna be waiting for that turbo to spool up if you don't build boost by brake torquing it. But we'll go ahead and we'll switch the drive mode for this vehicle back into its normal setting, just because most people, when they drive this car, they're not going to be in sport mode all the time. The engine itself doesn't have any kind of active valve in the exhaust, so it's just a relatively loud 4-cylinder in general, but it does make a nice guttural sound. I don't mind the sound of it. As I go around these corners here, you can really feel the 5,000 plus pound weight of this vehicle. So again, not the strongest element of the Bronco, but still much more livable than its main rival, the Jeep Wrangler. But if you're looking at something like the upcoming new Toyota 4Runner, I imagine that's going to be even better than this vehicle. I would also view the Land Cruiser as its main rival. The Land Cruiser is going to be a little bit more livable, a lot more quiet as well. This big brick of a vehicle also collects bugs and crap all over the windshield. Literally, one just exploded all over the windshield as I'm trying to sit here doing this review. So that's kind of gross. But just driving the vehicle around on the street, it is livable, it is comfortable, it's easy to see out of. You get this great commanding view of the road. However, if you guys want Ford's full suite of, you know, active driver assistance tech with their adaptive cruise control, it is not available on this trim because it only is offered with the mid package. If you want the high package, Ford doesn't offer it on the Everglades trim. That will roll in the heated steering wheel, the adaptive cruise control, the wireless phone charging pad, the 360 camera, the Bang & Olufsen sound system. So this just has the standard audio system, which kind of sucks. It's not great to listen to the standard audio, especially when you're trying to drone out the noisiness of the tires and the wind noise coming in. But hey, it's a sacrifice that you have to make with the Bronco. In terms of fuel efficiency, in my week's worth of testing, I averaged just over 16 mpg, which is a little bit less versus what the EPA says at 17 or 1817, I believe. It's essentially negligible increase in fuel economy versus the last V6 that I tested, which got 1717. So obviously you can get better gas mileage if you don't go for the Sasquatch package. That really will eat into the fuel efficiency because of the wider body, the all-terrain tires, the lifted suspension. It all affects the aerodynamics, and it also adds considerable weight. This vehicle is a good 300 pounds heavier versus like a comparable Badlands equipped model. even though it's not technically comparable. The winch at the front really adds a ton of weight to this vehicle, but it also adds that extra level of capability to where if you do end up getting stuck, you can essentially pull yourself out without needing the help of somebody else to yank yourself out. But overall, the Bronco is still one of my favorite off-road ready rigs. Obviously, it's a lot more comfortable than a Jeep Wrangler, and it has, I personally think, better tech in the vehicle. Ford's Sync system, I think, is better versus Jeep's Uconnect 5 system. I also appreciate the fact that this vehicle has a better ride quality. It feels a little bit more secure. It feels like it's built to deal with daily driving a lot better, which is a big deal for people because let's be honest, most people who buy these are going to be driving them out on the road most often the time. Should you choose the 4-cylinder over the V6? I mean, that's really going to depend on you. The 6-cylinder is going to be an upcharge option. I think it's like a $3,000 upcharge option, not on this trim, but it is available on some other trims. But really, for most people, I think the 4 should be enough power. It has a decent sound to it. It's got a responsive transmission, and there's also a ton of value baked into this Everglades trim to where you're getting a lot of additional equipment and capability, and it's really not that much more versus if you wanted to add the Sasquatch package to some of the other lower trim levels of the new Bronco. So with just over 105,000 big Broncos sold in America in all of 2023, this has been such a huge runaway success for Ford, and it was actually the best sales year ever because remember, when this vehicle first came out, it had a waiting list that literally expanded out to about 2 years of waiting, and Ford simply can't continue to build these vehicles quick enough to meet with demand. It's been chipping away also at Jeep Wrangler sales, so obviously Ford is doing something right. So after spending a full week with this unique model, the Everglades, which remember slots between the Badlands and the Wild Track trim, I have to say there's a lot of good stuff here that Ford is kind of throwing into that price. The 2.3 liter EcoBoost Turbo 4 is a solid powertrain that sounds pretty decent, that moves the vehicle out nicely. It's got a smooth shifting 10-speed that's also responsive. The interior also comes standard with the mid package in terms of equipment, so you have the bigger Sync 4A 12-inch infotainment system, no Bang & Olufsen stereo and no wireless charger, no heated steering wheel, and no adaptive cruise, but you do get most of the stuff that you want, like the wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, the over-the-air updates, the marine vinyl interior, which essentially can be hosed out. It's designed to be incredibly durable. The backseat is also spacious. The trunk area is usable. And while it is missing some of the nicer tech features that you're going to find in some of the upper trims, I'd argue that enthusiasts that buy something like this, they could probably be okay without it. The molded in color hardtop is also great that it's standard, although I really want Ford to eventually offer like a one-touch power retractable roof like what you can get in the Jeep Wrangler. I'm surprised after 4 years on the market, they haven't gone to a supplier yet to kind of create that option because I think it would do extremely well for Ford. Now, obviously, in terms of fuel efficiency, this is definitely not great. We are expecting Ford to eventually introduce a hybrid powertrain, which will definitely be a nice addition to the lineup. But really what makes the Everglades so enticing is the price and how this vehicle fits into the lineup, because you can get into essentially a 2-door Bronco base trim level. Because you could essentially get into a 2-door Bronco base trim level for just under $40,000. That's with the manual transmission. That's also still an enticing deal, although I remember when this car first came out, you could buy that for in the low $30,000 range. So obviously the company has been jacking up the price overall, and that's because, again, dealers were charging insane markups, and Ford saw the need to essentially increase the price to increase their profits, which isn't ideal, but it's kind of the situation that we're in with inflation being out of control. This trim, however, starts life out as a black diamond trim, which begins at around $44,000 for the 4-door model. The Everglades starts at around 55 grand. So it's around 11 grand more expensive, but again, there's no options to add besides the color and maybe a tow package. Everything basically comes standard. And keep in mind, this particular model that I'm showing you here with the color upcharged destination, you're looking at a base price or an as-tested price of $57,775. So just under 58 grand, which is actually surprisingly a strong value, because if you take, for example, like a Badlands trim level or a Black Diamond trim level, if you want to add the Sasquatch package, it's either $5,000 or $6,000, depending on if you want beadlock capable wheels. That winch at the front is also around $3,500 extra if you want to go to Ford Performance to add it. The snorkel, we don't know how much that would cost. The graphics package, some of the extra capabilities that this model gives you, I mean, they kind of throw it into you for a great value, because if you wanted to add the Sasquatch and package and some of the options that this model has, minus the winch, a Badlands trim level will cost you around 60 grand. A Black Diamond trim level will also cost you around $58,000, and that's before you add the $3,500 Warren winch. So my recommendation, this is actually a nice little kept secret in the Bronco family. The Everglades is definitely one of the most value-packed trim levels, especially if you don't need the extra luxury features of some of the other trims or some of the additional tech features you get with the high package. Keeping it under $60,000 is a surprisingly good deal. So if you guys are in the market for the ultimate adventure-seeking overland rig, you should definitely put one of these at the very top of your list. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Ford Bronco in the Everglades trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.